Hey guys, what's going on? Or should I say, welcome, foolish mortals. It is I, Eli, back with another review video. And yes guys, it's that time once again for me to review some Halloweenish films on the weekdays, etc. Yes. Oh yes, indeed so. So yeah, and yeah, because you guys realize that I'm starting this quite early. But hey, you know, we all start Halloween early before, say, October, so why not? Just, yeah. And also on account that the first Halloweenish film that I'm about to review, and, well, because you read the title, you know what the first Halloweenish film it is that I'm now about to review, it did come out 1 month before October, and so on. Yep. And, yeah, hard to believe. And with its anniversary, oh, you know, yes. So that's right, guys. To start off this year's batch of Halloweenish reviews on the weekdays, I am finally reviewing one of the earliest Universal Picture films during the silent era, and, you know, this predates what's, like, say, on my shirt, you know, from this guy, that guy, everybody, yeah. And yeah, because with Universal in the 1920s doing some earliest horror films, and yeah, again, during the silent era. So yes, again, I am finally reviewing 1925's, and which being the original, and I'm sure you would definitely agree with me when I say this, the definitive version of The Phantom of the Opera. Yes, guys. 1925's The Phantom of the Opera, the very first film adaptation, yeah, of The Phantom of the Opera. And of course, the film being based off of the book, as you know, and yeah, the book being the book being written by Gaston Leroux. See, I think I did get his last name right. Can't forget to leave him out. The man who was responsible for bringing us Phantom of the Opera to life, from, you know, on screen to live on stage, just, yeah. So, yeah, now finally having the chance to watch the original definitive version of Phantom of the Opera in all of its glory, you know, it did not disappoint for me. However, yeah, I'm sure, as some of you probably know, the original Phantom of the Opera has quite a complicated history. There have been so many versions of the 1925 version of Phantom of the Opera, with different cuts, and the many times it had been released, even a couple years after it was first released. In fact, even before it was released in September of 1925, it had some early screenings, and before its official date in September of 1925, it had to go through a couple of cuts. So, you know, I mean, for some of you, yeah, even James Rolfe had stated this, that, you know, it's hard to, you know, choose which exact date that it came out in 1925 is the official, you know, month and day, you know, day of the month when it came out, and, you know, with its anniversary. So, yeah. But a lot of people, of course, you know, cite, and it's true, that September 6th of 1925 being the day of the Phantom of the Opera's release, because it was, you know, shown in one of the theaters in New York, you know, just, yeah. But yeah, but for me, the first things I have to say about the original Phantom of the Opera, well, again, it did not disappoint for me. Seeing it in all of its glory, seeing Lon Chaney Sr. himself in this, playing the title character, everything that the original had to offer from beginning to end, and, you know, because this being a silent film, and with the title cards that show the suspense, and obviously when it comes to silent films, and through various releases, they would always have different pieces of music and so on. And to go ahead and mention this, because the version I watched of 1925's Phantom of the Opera, well, and I think, yeah, it goes for quite a handful of, you know, different releases of 1925's version of the film, where Point being is that there are many moments where the color of the film would change. Like sometimes it would be blue, red, purple, yellow, or sometimes black and white. You get what I'm saying. And, I think that with the various times that the color changes, it adds some quality. And with what's going on in each scene, you know what I mean? Just, yeah. And knowing more about what happened in the making of this movie, especially on account that there was quite a handful of people that didn't get along with the film's director, Rupert Julian. Yeah, even especially Lon Chaney and Rupert Julian, they didn't get along. But besides that, they still made one hell of a great silent film, making film history, and Lon Chaney really helping taking acting to the next level, as James Rolfe specifically stated. And if you've seen his review of that, just, yeah, you get what I'm saying and with what he said. Yeah, it's just amazing. And, yeah, what more do I have to really say? Because the original Phantom of the Opera from 1925, there's no other film version of Phantom of the Opera that can ever top off this one, without a doubt, and that's a pure fact, for sure. Yeah. All right, so with the first things I've had to say about 1925's Phantom of the Opera now out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Aspiring young opera singer Christine Day, if I'm pronouncing her name right or wrong, and yeah, there's a really good chance that I'm going to butcher some of the characters' names, but again, you know me sometimes, yeah. Christine discovers that she has a mysterious admirer intent on helping her become a lead performer. This enigmatic, if I said that right, masked presence is Eric, also known as the Phantom. A horribly disfigured recluse who lives underneath the Paris Opera House. When the Phantom takes Christine prisoner and demands her devotion and affection, her suitor, Victom Raoul de Changi, sets out to rescue her. Okay. All right, so now with reading the description / the story out of the way, let's dive in / break down the film itself. Yep. So let's start with the Phantom's manipulations, because, with seeing the Opera House in Paris, seeing the performances that happen and those that attend, and one of the big stars at the Opera House, of course, being Christine, being played by the late Mary Philippine. I think I did get her last name right. And someone who is a huge admirer of hers, and, with the Phantom's manipulations, and with the Phantom haunting the opera itself, and when new managers take over the Paris Opera House, they are warned about the opera ghost, who demands a private box, which being box number 5, and controls backstage events with threatening notes, blackmailing, and so on, trying to make Christine's career as an opera singer go to the next level, and with promotions that she'd be offered and so on. And this kind of puts a damper on the romantic relationship between her and her partner, which, of course, being Raoul. If I did get that right, Raoul being played by Norman Carey, and his brother being Comet Philip D. Changi, being played by the late John S.T. Paulus. So, of course, couldn't forget to mention his brother. So as I was saying, that, this puts a damper on both Christine and Raoul's relationship, and preferring to stick with her career more than, say, her love life with Raoul. And that's a bit harsh and such, very big. And just hearing the voice of the Phantom, and with the title cards that show, and almost throughout this film, up until like 45 to 46 minutes in the film, we see the Phantom, but only the back of him, his black cape, and the shadowy figure of him, and when he's reaching out and calling to Christine on, with her staying in the opera house and continuing her career as an opera singer. Because, again, with the new managers who are to take over the Paris Opera House just being very creeped out, and even when there are those in the Paris Opera House whom have believed to have seen the Phantom himself. Yeah, and a couple of those who are aware of the Phantom, and them speculating on the Phantom's presence and such in the Paris Opera House. And, and Christine, who becomes the star, because the Phantom, identifying himself to Christine as her angel of music. Well, not exactly, mentors, he mentors her voice from behind the walls of her dressing room mirror, and under his tugalog, if I said that right or wrong, but again, you know me sometimes, she becomes a promising understudy. And the Phantom's sinister notes compel the lead singer, Carlotte, if I got her name right or wrong, to drop out a performance, allowing Christine to take the stage and achieve a successful debut. And to go ahead and mention her, because Carlotte, if I might be mispronouncing her name, being played by the late Mary Fabienne, and in the re-edited version of this for the 1929 release, because the 1929 release, which has been lost, had some new footage with sound and dialogue. So it was Virginia Pearson, and she's also Carlotta's mother. Okay. So if you guys are aware and know about the 1929 re-edited version, again, that had sound and some dialogue, but again, that turned out to be lost. But I don't know, did it seem necessary to include that? I mean, some of the cast members, they do come back for new footage, but I think it was best that, even nowadays, that the 1925 version be just left alone for what it is, being a full-blown silent picture, as it was supposed to be from the start. Not to mention that Lon Chaney, he didn't come back for new footage for the 1929 re-edited version because, probably for the best, and because on account that the titled character himself being very quiet and so on. Okay, but anyways, so another thing to bring up is that, the chandelier crash, because when Carlotte definitively returns to the stage, and she had a feud with the new managers, to point that out, the Phantom retaliates, and he uses his macabre traps, if I said that right, to cut the cables of the opera's magnificent chandelier. I was aware of the thing of the chandelier crashing and falling before I saw this movie. Even with Phantom of the Opera being performed on stage, they have that. The effect of the chandelier coming down on you, but not really, of course. I'm sure you've seen that. And if any of you who have experienced Phantom of the Opera on stage, Broadway, and so on, feel free to let me know if by any chance you did. And with the magnificent chandelier coming down on some people, it, which crash downs into the audience in a panic-including sequence, because panic arising, all hell breaks loose when the chandelier crashes, the people scattering and just, getting really intense. And the catacombs, the catacombs and the unmasking, because Christine's abduction, it's during the chaos of the chandelier crash, of course, and the Phantom kidnaps Christine, and, by luring her into the subterranean, if I said that right, layer beneath the opera house. Just seeing the catacombs and, the Phantom, whom originally his name was Eric, just seeing where he resides underneath the bowels of the Paris Opera House. There's water, and there are steps, and even, say, there's a boat somewhere there, and where the Phantom resides, and he has an organ, he has furniture, a bed, and so on. And, even when we first see the Phantom himself, because we don't see his face yet, what he actually looks like. We just see him wearing half a mask, and the bottom of his face, his mouth being covered, and wearing a hat. And not to mention that before the film's release, fun fact, maybe you guys know this too, there were no publicity photos released to the public, just no public photos shown to everyone in the world of Lon Chaney as the Phantom. Nobody had known what he was going to look like in the movie until the movie itself premiered, and yeah, there's no doubt, of course, that when audiences first saw Lon Chaney as the Phantom himself, Eric, yeah, I mean, they got jump scared, and that being quite an early jump scare. But even nowadays, I don't think any of us would get jump scared over that. Maybe some, but I'm just simply saying, because, I mean, heck, I already knew about the unveiling of the Phantom before I saw the movie itself, so yeah. But, I mean, that reveal being a very iconic moment in this film for sure, where, Christine just, quietly approaching the Phantom as he plays his organ, and then taking off the hat and mask, and when we see the Phantom's face, Lon Chaney himself, yeah, very creepy and so on. And yeah, especially back then for those in 1925. And not to mention that, yeah, because Lon Chaney actually worked on the makeup himself, and man, because knowing what went down with poor Lon Chaney with the makeup process and, something that happened a little bit with his face and his nose nostrils, if you know what I'm talking about, yeah, poor guy. But you know what? Still managed to pull off one hell of a great silent acting performance, the main antagonist of this movie, without a doubt. And also, can't forget to mention that, before this, I mean, he had worked with Universal Pictures before, like most prominently playing the titled character in 1923's Hunchback of Notre Dame. And yeah, because that being considered, a Universal horror classic, I mean, Hunchback of Notre Dame isn't really, but, it's Universal, and with what was brought to that, yeah, I guess, I understand, but yeah, still. And of course, can't forget to mention that, his son, the late Lon Chaney Jr., well, we, of course, know that he would go on at some point to have a pretty good acting career, and most prominently, following in the same footsteps like his father, where he would be a part of the Universal horror genre, just, of course, most prominently playing the Wolfman. Yep, so, right there. Okay. But, not to mention because, Lon Chaney Sr., and, I think that's appropriate to call him that, Lon Chaney Sr., and because, his son being called Lon Chaney Jr., Lon Chaney Sr. never saw his son being an actor and saw him doing something else, but if only his father would have known that, man, he would turn out to be a pretty good actor and maybe possibly could have made his father proud, but yeah. Anyways, but, yeah, and with the unmasking, to talk more about the unmasking and to get back into the film itself, yeah, with the Phantom revealing himself to be Eric, a horribly disfigured genius, and declares his love for Christine, because that's a big thing that the Phantom's doing in this movie, trying to win over Christine and the love for Christine, like, wanting Christine to fall in love back with him, because he's in love with Christine. But, the fact that Christine is already with a man, and of course that being Raoul, well, yeah. And when the Phantom would make threats to Christine, but more on that in just a moment, because, yeah. And she cautiously, yeah, because as I said, she creeps up behind him, and yeah, the moment, revealing who he is, and, yeah. And also, the shocking reveal, the reveal of Chaney's, grotesque, skull-like makeup, yeah, because, again, just the makeup and how it looks is just fantastic. Not to mention, can't forget to mention this, that, it's very close to how the Phantom is depicted and described in the book itself, so, yeah, nice to see. But, the later Phantom of the Opera movies that came out, most of them just, giving us a backstory how the Phantom's face was, was decrypted and so on, you know what I mean? Just, yeah, disfigured. That's the word I'm looking for, disfigured, not decrypted. Where acid was thrown in his face, and the white mask, because he's got that covering part of his, you know, disfigured face, yeah. So that would continue on in the various other adaptations of Phantom of the Opera, but let's face it, they don't top off what this Phantom of the Opera brought to the portrayal of Eric / the Phantom, how his face is disfigured, you know, skull-like makeup, and yeah, it's nice to see that and knowing that it's very close to how it is described in the book itself. Yeah, good on them, and of course that goes for Lon Chaney Sr. Yeah, and with Christine being terrified and faints at the horrifying sight. Yeah, but then she would regain consciousness. And then, and yeah, to speed things up some, because, yeah, the Masquerade Ball and the Rooftop Confession, because what we would see next is, yeah, Christine, whom after being released by the Phantom, she attends to the annual Masquerade Ball. You know those are, and back in those days, because, yeah, especially the Victorian days, because, you know, people at a ball and wearing masquerade get-ups, just, yeah. The Phantom himself, he crashes the party, and he appears in a startling Red Death costume, and terrifying the guests. And this being the only sequence to be filmed in early 2-color Technicolor, because, like I said earlier, and with the version I watched of this, where, yeah, many shots, you know, in different colors, like, you know, from purple, blue, red, yellow, and sometimes in black and white. So in the case of the Masquerade Ball sequence, it was in Technicolor. And yeah, because it goes pretty well with what's going on in each scene and just going with the tone and vibe of each scene, you know, and as I said earlier, yeah. So, yeah, it works pretty well for the Masquerade Ball sequence to be in Technicolor. Yeah, the only sequence we get in this movie that's in color, just, yeah. And then, yeah, when it would come to the Rooftop Confession, which also being the Phantom's Evis dropping, if I pronounced that right or wrong, well, yeah, a moment where Christine and her lover Raoul, they both secretly meet on top of the opera house roof, and she tells her partner everything about the Phantom and having seen and interacted with the Phantom himself, and they both plot their escape to London, unbeknownst to them that, yeah, the enraged Phantom is, you know, is nearby them. That he's literally on top of further on top of the roof. Yeah. Yeah, well, somewhere in the roof, like, yeah, it's all right, but anyways, but yeah. Because, yeah, I remember, and just, like, you know, where he specifically is, but, yeah. But also, you know, with the threats that the Phantom has made to Christine and with what Christine shares to Raoul, because, yeah, because, again, the Phantom trying to win Christine's affection and love, you know, wanting her to fall in love with him as he is in love with her, and also telling her to focus on her singing career and continuing doing opera and not being with Raoul, but if she disobeys and, you know, warns Raoul and stays with him, which she does so, then it's death to both of them. And, yeah, should have seen this coming, and, yeah, with whatever devious plans the Phantom has in store next. And, you know, another mentioning of James Rolfe, because he made a good comparison, because when you think about it, the Phantom, with all his booby traps and everything that's in his secret lair in the bowels of the Paris Opera House, in some ways kind of in that same territory as the Joker. If you think about it, and with what James said, yeah, you obviously know this. Yeah. Okay, but to still speed things up some, let's now get to the climax, yeah. And as I just mentioned, with the Phantom having booby traps in his secret lair, yeah, so the labyrinth of traps, well, after both Christine and Raoul, they fail to escape London, the Phantom kidnaps her once again while, yeah, during a performance, and Raoul and a secret police inspector by the name of Ledix, if I said that right, yeah, whom we did see a good chunk of times early on in this movie, and he was yeah, he was very suspicious, and to some of the people that, work in the Opera House, like, what's this guy all about? And, does he have some connection with the Phantom? Well, I mean, there's at least one person that does have a connection with the Phantom, being a messenger and such. We do get a little bit of him, but especially on account of the 1929 re-edited version, So, Ledex, both Raoul and Ledex, they pursue them into the Phantom's booby-trapped labyrinth beneath the Opera House. And Ledex, well, it's great to see because Ledex, he turns out to be a good character. And Ledex being played by the late Arthur Edmund Carew, if I got his last name right, but again, you know me sometimes. Like I said, where he starts off, we first see him being very strange in his presence throughout the Opera House, but turning out to be an expector, and he had been studying and doing his research and such on the Phantom for many months, and knowing what the Phantom is like and what they're up against. So, it's a good thing that, Raoul has Ledex by his side, so, Ledex will definitely be some good extra help for the situation that Raoul's in and trying to save his partner, Christine. And then it comes to the choice, because, with what else goes on in the Phantom's, his own room, and with Christine, not to mention, that I can't forget to mention this, of course, that at a certain point, many of the people who live in London and attending to the Opera House, with them being more well aware of the Phantom's presence, not to mention that the Phantom did kill a victim, and this would cause the victim's brother to go in rage and to avenge his brother's death. And it would get everybody else involved, and starting a huge mob with torches and, barging their way further into the Opera House, going beneath the bowels of the Opera House, But with the choice, because the Phantom, whom traps his reviles, if I said that right, and subjects them to extreme heat, because, he cranks up the temperature where it causes an extreme wave of heat, and this is where the way the film looks, it turns into red. Getting us that feel and vibe that, it's hot and flames and so on, causing our two main characters, Ledex and Rao, to just almost have like a heat stroke or something. So, he then gives Christine a cruel choice to pull one of the two levers, a scorpion or a grasshopper. One will save Raoul and Ledex, which being, the scorpion, and the other one being the grasshopper. It will blow up the Opera House to bits and pieces. Huge explosion and such. So obviously, she goes for the scorpion. And with that, by turning it, this doesn't cause them to be taken down by the extreme heat. And, at one point, and because of this, it caused the Black River to sink down, but then make its way to where Raoul and Ledex would end up being in, where, they're in this room where there's gunpowder, then the water comes in and it's gonna drown them. Meanwhile, the mob, they're still making their way further into the bowels of the Opera House. They're this close to locating and finding where the Phantom himself is. And not to mention that the Phantom having this device where, it rings the bell and alerting the Phantom that there's presence in his labyrinth, his secret lair. Even there was a moment before they found their way into the room where the gunpowder is that, managed to find a room, where these doors open and they found themselves where the room of gunpowder is. But that was, after that, that's when, because with the whole scorpion and grasshopper thing happens. But overall, because, the Phantom, because Christine just begging the Phantom to spare their lives, on account of Raoul, and the Phantom, he obliges, and by moving a piece of carpet out of the way, and yeah, helping Raoul and Letix get out of the overflowing water that's going to drown them. And yeah, with both of them being reunited, Raoul and Christine, well, the Phantom, still being betrayed and outraged, he's not giving up. And now, by this point, that the angry mob, they're this close to coming after the Phantom makes a run for it, taking Christine with him, and, well, early on, we saw that Raoul arranged a carriage to wait for him and Christine. Well, now, with the Phantom, along with Christine, out in Paris, he hijacks the carriage and has Christine ride in the carriage. So, yeah. And, well, when the angry mob step in, they follow Letix and thus, yeah, trying to pursue the Phantom. And, yeah, because the final chase, yeah, where, again, Christine, she chose the Scorpion, and the Phantom, seeing her compassion, releases Raoul and Letix and his attempt to flee with Christine in a carriage. But an angry mob, of course, by hunting him down. And yeah, and still to speed things up some, because yeah, that chase sequence, like, everyone on foot chasing after the Phantom, whom is speeding down the line with the carriage and the two horses. But yeah, then at one point, Christine, waking up and regaining consciousness, she jumps out of the carriage. It's obvious that she would do that. And the Phantom slowing down, and yeah, this causes the carriage to tip over, and he tries to once again take Christine with him, but yeah, by this point he's out of options, and he just flees, leaving Christine behind. Yeah, he's failed on attempting to, win over Christine's heart and such, yeah. And yeah, Raoul and Christine finally being reunited, and, well, all that's left is the Phantom getting chased by the angry mob. It would lead to where, yeah, the Paris River is. The Phantom, had the mob stay back because, yeah, he fools the crowd in thinking that he's holding a bomb in his hand, and yeah, because he then reveals that it's empty, and yeah, he fooled them once more, and then they just tackle him, and yeah, and they just, they beat him up, and then they toss him into the Sinai, if I said that right, the Sinai River. Yeah, and yeah, that's how the Phantom is defeated, by drowning. And yeah, that's how the movie ends. Literally. Yeah. But hey, that was a pretty satisfying ending, I guess you could say, even back then. But, to also mention this, because yeah, and maybe you guys are obviously aware of this, the alternate endings, because there was a brief epilogue that showed Raoul and Christine on their honeymoon. Now, the version I watched, it didn't have that. But even before that, and with what's in the final film, the mob defeating the Phantom once and for all, originally, the way this movie did its ending was death by heartbreak, basically. And the original ending was going to be more faithful to the novel. And yeah, and it was shown in some versions, but that footage, yeah, that was also lost and such, because it had been cut when, yeah, early screenings of the film were shown, and nobody liked how it first ended off with the Phantom being redeemed, because what happens is that the Phantom, he does release Christine, and along with her, Raoul, and they can live happily ever after. And yeah, the Phantom, he dies with a broken heart. But again, the audience, when they first saw this ending, they didn't like it. They wanted some punishment for the Phantom himself. And thus, what we see today is what it is in the final film, where, yeah, the mob, they take down and defeat the Phantom once and for all by throwing him in the river, and he drowns. The end. Yeah, I think, I think it did seem to work. It was acceptable, Besides, how could you really, at a certain point, even throughout the film, be rooting for the Phantom himself? Seriously, and with what all he does throughout the film, I'm just saying, but yeah. But, overall, the way the movie ends, and with the Phantom being defeated once and for all, I'm not complaining. It was pretty good, and I'm sure the same goes for a lot of you, yeah. But, I don't know, because I'm sure maybe there have been some of you that, by any chance, have read the novel/book, and, I don't know, it's your opinion if you would have liked to see how it originally ended, or if you think how, in the final film, how it ends, with him being defeated, getting no redemption, yeah, that's, okay, you can let me know on that. But, I mean, yeah, just, again, how it ends, pretty good, yeah. But, yeah, just, The Phantom of the Opera itself, from 1925, yeah, it's without a doubt a silent film masterpiece. Everything about it from beginning to end is just amazing. From the storyline, how, the silent film of Phantom of the Opera was done, and with its cast of talents, most prominently Lon Chaney Sr., but of course not to leave out the other cast members from Mary Philibine, Norman Carey, Arthur Edmund Carwee, Gibson, Gowland. Yeah, because I didn't to name some of the other cast members, because we have Gibson Gowland being played. He plays Simon Bauket. If I got that right or wrong. Snitz Edwards, Florine Pabellon, Mary Fabian, who she plays. Because she played Carlotte, and I already mentioned Virginia Pearson. But those that were uncredited, there's quite a lot, because one of the members of the masquerade party being the Jester. He was played by Roy Cowlson. Yeah, I think I said that right. Ruth Clifford played a ballerina, and Earl Gordon Bostwick played a minor role. The stage manager being played by Joseph Belmont. And another ballet dancer being played by Betty Arthur, another ballerina being played by Betty Allen. But just to name some of the other cast members and those who are uncredited, and also another manager being played by Cesar Gravina. If I said that right, but yeah. Also, I feel like mentioning this too. Another fun fact to share, and I'm sure you guys would probably be aware of this. The defunct historic stage of Universal Studios, their backlot, Stage 28. Now, yeah, because that was the first stage to be built with concrete and cement. And yeah, Stage 28 being most famous for, having, containing the iconic Opera House sets. And when Lon Chaney Sr., he passed away, supposedly he haunted Stage 28. Lights flickering, doors shutting, and people seeing a black caped figure passing by, and not to mention that this would most prominently be in an episode of Knight Rider. And if any of you have seen Knight Rider and that episode, and yeah, because I'm guessing the ghost of Lon Chaney Sr. just wanted to have some fun, and living on as the Phantom in a fun way, just spooking anybody that is present on Stage 28. But I'm guessing, but yeah. And if you believe in ghosts and such, but yeah. However, in 2014, sadly, the stage would be demolished, and nowadays, where Stage 28 used to be, now we have Nintendo Land, and I'm sure you know this, and even, once again, James Rolfe, he most prominently brought this up too, but with Yesterworld, I've seen where Yesterworld talked about, Stage 28 and with the ghost of Lon Chaney Sr. Not to mention that there were a couple of other ghost sightings in Universal Studios backlot, most prominently near where the Psycho House is. If you know about that story, but anyways. I just thought I'd mention that, and because, with Stage 28, that once housed the iconic Opera House sets. I mean, the Opera House sets, they're still, doing pretty good, and, they've been stored and such. I mean, there's no way, of course, that they would have torn those down. Just, keep what was left of the Opera House sets in good condition and in good storage. And, even over the years, those sets of the Opera House would be used for various other movies. I do remember that, the the 2011 Muppets film, it did use those Opera House sets, and if you know this too, because yeah, I mean, part of the 2011 Muppets film was shot on the Universal Studios backlot, as well as bits and pieces on the Warner Brothers backlot. But yeah, anyways, okay, But with that out of the way, mentioning Stage 28, but just overall, to finish up on what I have left to say on 1925's Phantom of the Opera, yeah, without a doubt, a silent film classic. You know, it's definitely one of the top best movie adaptations of Phantom of the Opera, and yeah, I don't think I'm wrong when I say this, again, that it's the definitive movie version of Phantom of the Opera. It's a treasure of the Universal horror films, the classic ones. Just, yeah, what more do I have to say, really? Okay, and I'm giving 1925's The Phantom of the Opera, well, why not? 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for 1925's silent film, The Phantom of the Opera. And what about you guys? What did you think of the original / definitive film version of Phantom of the Opera, the silent film from 1925 itself? Is it your favorite of the Phantom of the Opera films? And I'm sure you feel the same way, that it is the true / definitive version of Phantom of the Opera itself. Yeah. Your favorite moments. If this was one of the first early Universal horror classics you watched, and yeah, and, you know, with the characters, Lon Chaney Sr., the titled character, the Phantom, your first reaction to watching this, if you were feeling the intensity and scary moments, and with the unveiling of the Phantom himself, if you've been to Universal Studios and at the backlot and where Stage 28 used to be, and, you know, if you've seen any of the other movie adaptations of Phantom of the Opera, and even if you've also cosplayed as the Phantom himself, yeah. And also, how many versions of the 1925 version of Phantom of the Opera did you see? Because again, with this having a complicated history of various releases with, you know, with its edits, and not to mention a guy with a lantern at the start of the film, yeah, if you know what I'm talking about. If you saw a version with that at the start of the film, yeah, couldn't forget to mention that. Yeah, and if you watched the film in the same way that I did, where, yeah, many times the color would change from red, purple, blue, and of course with the Masquerade Ball being in Technicolor, just, yeah, let me know. But again, overall, what do you think of the 1925 silent film of Phantom of the Opera itself, with what all I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, foolish mortals, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of 1925's silent film, the definitive version of The Phantom of the Opera. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And foolish mortals, reviewing Halloweenish films on the weekdays has just begun. So stay tuned later tonight, because what I will be reviewing next is another classic Universal horror film that has to do with this guy. However, he's not alone, because, let's just say, he would have a bride. Yeah, I think it's obvious. You know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Just, yeah, again, stay tuned for that. Take care, peace out, and again, the Halloweenish reviews on the weekdays just got started. And, can't forget to say this, happy anniversary to the original / definitive version of The Phantom of the Opera.